Welcome back to the OpenShift TV coffee break. Sorry, I had an issue with my microphone. Now it's fixed. I'm very happy to be here with lots of people, as you can see. Those are the winners of Red Hat Hackfest for Retail 2023. Together with organizer, I'm pleased to have today Andrea, James, and all the participants of the Hackfest. So before starting, let's give a little bit of context. You are an OpenShift TV coffee break. This purpose of this show is to have coffee, of course, and to talk about the cloud native architecture and OpenShift. And today we have Andrea James. Andrea James, how are you?
Hi, Natalia. All good, thank you.
Hey, James.
I believe James has an issue with the audio.
No problem, no problem. Let's go through the flow today, and I'm really pleased to present all our special guests. Andrea, do you want to present them?
Yes, of course. So we are very, very thrilled to have here today the best three teams who actually won the Red Hat Hackfest 2023 focused on retail vertical. So we have Dominic today from the ADA, we have Christian today from Atos, and Tassos from Unisystems. We will give you an overview of what's been done during the Red Hat Hackfest and why they have been awarded with the best three positions at the end of the event.
Sounds great. Sounds great. So, Andrea, this is I'm putting some captions so the people can see. This is Red Hat Hackfest. Oh, there's a ticker. Looks like a marquee in HTML in 90s. I don't like it. Let me have this caption. Looks like more Red Hat Hackfest. And while we go, so this is Andrea. Which this is the third edition or fourth edition of the Hackfest?
So this is the fourth edition in the EMEA region. We had also one edition in Asia Pacific. We are working to execute one also in North America and Latin America that will be announced in the next times to come. We've been together for a long time, Natalia, on this Hackfest. I remember we started working on the first pilot and the first use case 3 years ago when we got locked down because of the COVID. And we started with something around smart cities, I remember back in the days. And then the Hackfest became a more enterprise go-to-market tool 2 years ago, actually, with the first sponsorship by Intel and IBM. Then we cooperated also and got sponsored by Intel and AWS in Asia Pacific. And now, with this last Red Hat Hackfest in EMEA, we have decided to focus on retail, and we work together with Intel and Microsoft. And that's important, right? So sponsorship is not just about money. It's all about what kind of value technology can add to customer business and to prototypes, because the Hackfest is all about prototyping and working together with the partner ecosystem on solutions that solve customer or help customers solving their technical challenges, but also grow the business and expand in specific vertical. And that's why, for example, the Hackfest focuses on a specific region and a specific edge vertical in each and every business motion. So again, to give some context to our audience, we decided to focus on retail because retail is a very, very big landscape. We will hear from our special guests and the winners today what kind of part of the retail vertical they focused on. Could be logistics, could be point of sales, could be warehousing. So all of them are important. All of them, they require special workload or business logic or technologies to develop a proper scalable prototype. But I would love also, James, if you can hear us and you can speak, I would love also to involve James, who's been the technical heart of this business motion, if I may.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Hey. Sorry, I had a few teething problems at the beginning with Linux audio support. It's still here in 2023, but there we go. Probably my mistake anyway. I would just like to say thanks everybody for joining the stream today to listen to the Hackfest and listen to the winners here. It was a fun event, right? It took many months to put together, and it ran for over 5 weeks or so with a broad technical stack. I'm sure you'll hear a lot about it today, with Azure, Red Hat, OpenShift, with edge devices, with Red Hat's middleware portfolio, and lots of other pieces in there as well. So we had a lot of fun with a lot of teams building things over these many weeks. But the reason for doing it really is not just, of course, for having fun, but of course is to build skills and promote partners who can adopt this technology in a meaningful way and use it to solve business problems. In this case, in the retail industry, in the retail sector, that was our focus, is what we'll hear more and more about. But I think what's interesting is you listen to these three the team leaders talk about their solutions, is just how each team took different approaches, worked on different areas and different technologies. So I hope we'll give you a broad view throughout the day. Does that make sense, Andrea?
Yes, thank you for giving more context, James. And at this point, Andrea, I'd like to introduce Dominic, Christian, and Tassos.
Yep. So I will start in order, actually. So let's start with the third place in the ranking.
Because we have a rank.
Yeah,
Do we have this rank written somewhere?
Just to be very clear, these guys are all winners, right? Let's be absolutely
Of course.
They beat many other teams, but so there is a ranking, but they're all here on their success today. So
right on.
Yeah. And so I will start. I'm very thrilled to have here Tassos from Unisystems. We got impressed of the. By the way, the guys, the teams, they have to pass 2 rounds. So they have to be evaluated by 2 juries, 1 technical and 1 business. It's not all about technology, right? It's also, again, as I shared already, is about what value, business value, the solution pitched, presented, developed by the team can add to customer challenges. So third place in the ranking goes to Unisystems. Tassos is here with us. Would you like Tassos to talk about your team, your company, and your solution?
Yes. So hello. It's a pleasure to be here, and it was a wonderful experience participating in Hackfest. So I'm a principal solutions architect at Unisystems. Unisystems is a systems integrator that focuses both on on-prem and cloud-based solutions. And we are based in Athens, Greece, but we have also presence in many places in Europe. So we are working both with customers and organizations in our local region and in European agencies. And as far as I think for what we did with Hackfest, I think we can talk about this later on, right? So
you can share what you did in the Hackfest now if you want.
Oh, you wanted to go ahead?
Yeah,
let's do a presentation of all the guests, and then we go into technical detail. What do you think about?
Well, that's fine to me. So second place in the ranking, Viada with Dominic. Viada focused on aspects that are usually, let's say, our customers, they usually, but just to quote Ian Boyle, our chief architect for retail, usually our retail customers, they believe they have full control on their stocks, on their processes, internal processes, but it usually not exactly like that, and there is always space for improvement. So Dominic, please go ahead.
Yeah, hi, I'm Dominic Winter. Thanks for having me. I'm senior consultant and tech lead for middleware solutions at Viada. We are a relatively small consulting company, mainly operating in Germany, and we are focused. Since we are a Red Hat partner for many years, I don't know, 15 years or something, we are also specialized mostly in the Red Hat portfolio, be it middleware and also in the infrastructure part. So OpenShift and JBoss ERP is where we started, and now we are pretty much covering the whole portfolio for our customers.
And I'm also very proud because I've been working with Viada for many, many years, enabling and supporting the company in several customer projects. So very well done. Very well done, Dominik.
Thank you.
And last but not least, actually the first place in the ranking, we have Christian here from formerly Atos. Christian, tell us more.
Yeah, correctly. Thanks you. Yeah, so we started as Team Atos, and during the Hackfest, with a lot of pre-works, of course, the company has run a split off, and our part of our former Atos business is now in the new brand of Eviden, where we have the cloud business, big data, security, everything around digital. And there I'm working as a senior cloud DevOps engineer in the, basically in the Red Hat department. So we've been working closely with Red Hat for quite a while now, even though for me, this was the first project where I actually could lay hands on a real OpenShift cluster, which was a really nice experience for me.
That's great to hear. Thanks, Christian. So we heard the three winners. Let's go into the technical detail. I'm sure our audience is really keen to hear from you what you learned from this experience and what are the technical details of what you did. So I think Tassos was starting with doing that. So please, and James, do you want to show this diagram before we go into the technical details, or how do you prefer?
So that slide 12, I think, might be helpful for Tassos's description. So it is the
right.
A couple of screenshots from each of the team's workloads, and Tassos, you can choose to speak to it if you wish, and each team can choose if they wish to speak to it.
Yeah. So let me start sharing quickly the slides that give a little bit of context what we're doing here. So I hope you can see that. In let me check. And it should be visible. Maybe it's more visible like this. And James, do you want to?
Yeah, certainly. So, like I say, all of the teams for Hackfest were given the same environment. So they had Azure Red Hat OpenShift environment running in the data center. They had an Azure Red Hat OpenShift environment to simulate a store. And they also had 2 bits of hardware as well. So they had a Fitlet and an IBM NUC. So the IBM NUC is a x86 pretty powered machine.
Intel NUC.
What did I say?
It's Intel IBM NUC.
Oh, no, IBM. Well, that's not true. That's not true. An Intel NUC. Thank you. Pretty decently powered machine that would simulate kind of what a retailer would likely have in a store, right? In their shops. And then they had a kind of a lower powered x86 machine kind of simulating a point of sale, right? And we can send the link in a second so you can see all the technical details, right? I think, what really impressed us by the unit systems is they put together a live, working demo about product updates and product promotions, rather, that spans all of these environments. And I don't want to take the power away too much from Tassos's explanation. And Tassos, hopefully that diagram is useful for you, but you choose how you wish to explain the rest of it. But like I say, we're really impressed by how you used all those environments together and how an architecture working across all 3 of those.
Yeah, and before I start presenting the environment, one thing that I want to point out that it was really nice and we enjoyed about the Hackfest was that we put together a team with various profiles. So it ranged all the way from a programmer, Java programmer, to a Linux administrator. We had a DevOps person. We have an OpenShift expert. We had also someone that was proficient in rules. So we're able to combine all these technologies to come up with the result that you see. So to go very, very quickly about what we implemented. So the idea was to be able to handle personalized promotions that are based on the stock that a retailer has. So, for example, if you have the end of season approaching, where you know that you need to have there's new items coming in, so you need to get rid of the old items, or there's a new line of products that are superseding the existing ones, or for whatever other reason, even products that are nearly their expiration date, that they need to be able to, you need to be able to make them, to sell them as fast as possible. So from a technology perspective, what we did was we have three pillars, right? We have the headquarters data center, where we have a database, and the data center was based on Azure Red Hat OpenShift. There was a cluster there. There's another cluster on the store level. These two clusters may be connected, but may also be disconnected. So we had to be sure that we can handle disconnected scenarios. And of course, we have the POS device. The POS device was a physical device, a fitlet, that would be able to handle the POS transactions. The challenging part, and the part that we really enjoyed, was how to manage this asynchronous communication between the two environments, that in a way that would also be near real time if possible, but also handle cases where there would be a disconnect. So we put together a solution that used change data capture, leveraging the Bezium, Kafka, of course, Mirror Maker, to make sure that to have events streamed from one Kafka cluster to the other. And then when these events were received at the store level, these events contained the promotions that were applicable to customers based on their profile. And then one important thing that we implemented in our solution was that we wanted to make sure that the promotion was only sent to a customer once we were sure that the actual promotion information had reached the store. So we implemented this bidirectional communication between the two clusters. Once the promotion reached the store, we would send back an acknowledgement, and only when the acknowledgement would actually reach the headquarters, what you see here as step 3B and 4, only then we would actually notify the customer that there's a promotion waiting for them at the store. And then the customers would be able to go to the store. They would need to have their loyalty card with them so that they could actually claim the promotion that had been sent to them. And then once they bought the items that satisfied the promotion, then they would actually get the respective discount or whatever was there. So from a technical perspective, it was a very good chance for us to work. We had worked with Kafka. We hadn't worked with the Bezium or Mirror Maker. We had experience with Drools, but we hadn't worked with Cogito. So, and of course, we hadn't worked with physical devices, being in the world of cloud. So it was a really nice experience for us to actually get experience with, get acquainted, and work with these technologies and actually implement something that solves a business problem.
If I may add also my 2 cents here, I was very, very happy when Tassos demoed or presented the solution. Now he just connected the edge device to the power cable. And that was fantastic because when you do edge, of course, you want to automate each and every process, including the connection of those devices with the near edge cluster that Tassos mentioned. So having this kind of natural flow and seeing all the whole environment working as one component was very impressive. And this is actually what we expect from technology, what our customers expect from technology, to have an operating system that takes care of spinning up and all the workload and connects securely to the environment. Thanks, Tassos.
I have to say, +1 to that. There's nothing better than doing the demo live, right? And that's what we got. And I think every technologist always worries, right? When you do something live, you know something's going to break. But it was a cool demo, and very, very good to see.
Thank you.
Yes, and thanks, James. I think we have a link to look at the source code, right? So the people can really see the implementation, the technical details. You know, this is a technical show, right? So let's give to our audience technical details. I put the link of a repository where you can find how Unisystem implemented this version of the Hackfest this year. So that's great. Thank you for sharing it. Please have a look. And you'll find, you know, you have in the slide that diagram, the architectural diagram, but then you have the implementation in this repository. Right. That was really interesting. And yeah, let's go for Dominic.
Yes.
Dominic.
Yeah, we for a little bit of context, we are very development heavy in our team. So we had like one infrastructure guy who fell sick. So we were pretty much botching all the things that had to do with infrastructure. So our use case was also focused more on the application side and data, but we also went into the direction of inventory management for the stores. Andrea also introduced it very perfectly. In Germany, everyone thinks they know what they have in stock and what they don't have in stock. Reality shows that's not the case. So our solution was to bring sensor data in to live track inventory stock, and also to manage the data that we get from the sensors to maybe reorder products that are going out of stock, or get even more metadata. Maybe there are some stores in Germany that sell a lot of beer at every Sunday, so we want to stock them with beer that they can make their customers happy. So collecting data, then collecting data in the stores, then aggregating the data in the data center, and from there we had all the data in hand and could do the data science from there. So on the left side is a little bit simplified, but the architecture of our solution. So we had basically all teams had the same base architecture, like you already heard, where we had a Fitlet for an edge device and single node OpenShift cluster on an Intel NUC for the store side, and then a data center. It was Aro, so it was hosted on Azure, and we had to sync those. And that was quite the experience for only developers to sync up two Kafka clusters, where the developers have never really worked with Kafka, so we learned really a lot in this Hackfest. And also we kind of learned how we integrate different technologies. So we have the sensors that are writing into MQTT topics technically. So that's basically the industry standard that IoT devices mostly write into MQTT topics. I think my headset went off. Can you still hear me? Okay, fine. That's basically into the industry standard, and we used Kafka Connect, or we tried to use Kafka Connect to translate basically from MQTT into Kafka topics. So we had that side, and we could use a Red Hat product for that. It was part of MQ Streams. And then the market data that we collected, the sensor data, we pushed that via Mirror Maker 2 again into the data center. And in the data center, we had an application that we called the virtual market. And in the virtual market, we can select different markets that are collecting data and pushing the data into the data center, and see a live representation of the stock that the sensors are collecting. I can show a mock application. It should be running right now. I'm sharing my screen. Give me a second. Might be dangerous, but let's try.
Hey, you're a man that really likes live demos. We love that.
Yes. So that was the prototype that we presented also in the Hackfest judging session. And right now, it's unfortunately, again, mock data behind it, because we don't have access anymore to the clusters where we develop our application. But that was our vision and our working prototype, where we collected the sensor data on the edge device, pushed it into the SNO, and replicated it from the SNO into the data center. And we built a little mock application where we can see that the stock of cake is 42% right now. So we can react to those levels of stock. So that was our idea. We had some more plans to go into data science, to analyze maybe how stocks or how the inventory behaves over time, so that we can react to different situations. But we didn't have quite that much time because we pretty much engulfed with infrastructure challenges, right? That's pretty much our solution.
Appreciate that the demo here at the moment is basically random data, right?
Yes,
you don't have clusters connected anymore. But it was really cool to see you built a new visualization, new front end connected back to the OpenShift clusters. You did that during Hackfest, and that was really cool to see. But I think particularly, like I say, both teams were judged from a technical and a business standpoint, and we really saw the Ada team here really listen to a key problem in retail. Believe it or not, in 2023, real-time stock control, real-time stock visualization is still a hard problem. Although it's a prototype, a proof of concept, this was an interesting way to be tracking those stock levels and visualizing them. So cool to see. And your live demo work, which is always nice. But
yes.
I know she didn't click on anything, but that's okay.
That's great. We had the live demo. We had we also have the repository, so you can look at the chat, and you can go to GitHub and check out the source code of this implementation.
Yep. So the repositories are just a bit mixed up. So this TaylorShift one is actually for Atos, which we'll hear about now. But we'll put the Viada repository in the chat in just a second as well. All right. But that's a good segue now, I think, over to Christian, who is representing the first place winners of Hackfest. And you guys blew us away, right, with that result. So if I could ask for slide 17 from Tale, and then we'll hand over to Christian.
Here we go.
Brilliant.
Yeah, we actually had some status problems. So in the first week, we were like planning on what are we going to do. And then I was sick for more than a week, and then not much happened because guys were trying to figure out how to build the IoT side of things with the Red Hat Edge image. And then after basically 2 weeks were gone, and we were looking into our faces and we were thinking, can we actually make this, or do we have to break up? Because we had to plan so much stuff. But we said, screw this, we're doing it anyway. And I don't know how we won, but nevertheless. All our results are on GitHub. I'm still hoping that at some point in time we can also put this under open source license, which is currently not. Can we share my screen or my tab, please?
Yes.
Your screen, more than happy to. We've also got a few slides if you wanted to, but always nice.
I would see. So I would like to go by this because this is what people can see if they look on our website, so they have some kind of feedback there. So this is our project. So we came up with this fictitious company called TaylorShift. One of our team members suggested this name, which I think is the greatest thing ever. And the other idea was, why are we going for a fashion company? So TaylorShift is a fashion company, and the inspiration for that was this crazy red socks we received as the merchandise that came along with the IoT devices. And basically we have our architecture overview here. I hope this is big enough. You will see there's quite resemblance to the reference architecture from Red Hat, because we basically said, yeah, that looks good. Let's basically do everything, which was a bit ambitious, so we couldn't dive so deep into the particular topics. What you see on this architecture here, there are a lot of differently painted arrows, and if you are interested, you can read the documentation. They're all explained. So we focused on 2 or 3 things more or less. One was how can we make sure that these IoT devices that we have here work in a secure way, allows us to put them any place in shops as kind of decentralized point of sale architecture. And one way to achieve this is doing a secure boot device initialization, where the device registers itself and gets PKI certificates. We use the cert manager operator for that to identify itself then later on at runtime. Our IoT device itself would run in a kiosk mode, where it can run either in a customer mode, where you can see all of our products, you can see our stocks and the prices, you can scan an article, see the price, you can check, is this article in stock in a different color or in a different size if you don't find it right now. And all of this information should be secured in a way. And to do this, all these calls that come from this single page web application go through an edge proxy on the device, where it basically adds crypto headers using this certificate that it acquired during the initialization process. And these crypto headers are then validated on the back office side. So that's basically how we ensured authentication or trust on the devices. And then the shop device also has some kind of sales mode. So if an employee wants to make a sales transaction, then he can maybe scan his NFC badge, and then he's logged in and can do a reclamation or a sale or whatever. So that was just the device part. But we went on with that and said, so the reference architecture from Red Hat had this cool idea with Debezium and Mirror Maker and a Kafka. We heard about that in the other two projects already. So this change data capture, so whenever we make a change, we can replicate it into one direction. So from the data center to the back office, for example, we use this to replicate our master data. So we have a list of customers and products and base prices in a central data center, where you in theory could also run, for example, some self-service registration for your customers or whatever to get maybe discounts for people who registered. But we said, why stop here? Why just go into one direction of replication when we can use it in both directions? And what we actually did then was to say, hey, if the back office creates transactions like sales and inventory movements, we can replicate these back to the data center as well. And this allows us basically to have a distributed single point of truth, or not distributed, separated, I don't get the term right now. So the data center is basically responsible for all the master data, but the local back office shops are responsible for their transactions, but they're sharing them with the data center. The benefit of that is that we can make use of machine learning. In the data center, we have all the data that are available. And we used Red Hat OpenShift data science for that with the Jupyter notebook, and also made some Grafana visualizations on that. And the devices itself, since they are not in a large data center, they only have limited capabilities. They only have the data that they need in the local store. Yeah, that's basically the overall architecture from that. We used a lot of the available operators. Everything that you see here is built with infrastructure as code. So in theory, you can replicate this. We also worked with, since we were a remote team, we didn't use the IoT devices because then we would have somehow shared the screen on that. So we used virtual machines for that. So you can rebuild this if you want anywhere. Everything is documented. And the actual services that we built with Quarkus, which is, by the way, a lot of fun. So I'm a Java developer with a lot of Spring experience. I could say Quarkus is a magnificent tool for that, especially the hot reloading parts, making my life easy. The servers aren't that complex, so look into it if you're interested. It's usually not more than like 500 lines of code. Pretty awesome stuff that we could use there as a tooling. We had a lot of fun in the project, despite the time pressure that we had.
And Christian, thanks for spending those nice words around Quarkus. Our friends from the Quarkus B will be more than happy to hear them.
Well, that's really cool, and so to recap, do a technical recap a little bit. So all the participants are using RHEL for Edge, single node OpenShift, and Arrow, right? So those are three components: the edge, the far edge, the edge, and then the cloud.
Edge in the data center, yes. So the platform is always the standard starting point for each and every stretched or distributed architectures in the Red Hat Hackfest.
Right. Thank you, James. James just shared with me the architectural diagram that really helped us understand how it works. Let me share it quickly because I think it's really cool to understand how all the people implemented this version of the Hackfest, and I hope you can see that.
Yeah, we can do that. I mean, what I think, as you said, was really interesting is that each team got the same, let's say, template architecture. It's not a reference architecture, but it was like a template architecture, right? So it means the teams, we provisioned Azure Red Hat OpenShift for them. And we provisioned, you can see a bunch of operators like Web Terminal and Jaeger and Prometheus and all this kind of stuff. But everything was left unconfigured, right? You log into OpenShift, you got a blank environment. There was nothing, there's nothing there. We'd written a little bit of code, like really a tiny bit of code, to be honest, to get them started. But each of these teams you heard from just now took this and thought, okay, well, we like some of these bits, and we like, and we don't like some other bits, and we're going to change and adapt, what we've got here to what makes sense for the business problem we're trying to solve. So I think what's really cool as well is you're probably looking at the diagram trying to work out all the bits. These teams worked out all these bits. They worked out all the bits in the architecture. When they're not working on this full time, they're working on this during the, let's say, 1 day a week or so, over 4 or 5 weeks, and they produce some incredible things, as you've just seen, right? Each taking a different approach and produced incredible things. One thing, maybe if we just leave the diagram up here for now for a minute or two, maybe worthwhile going around the teams. Something that I heard from each team was we never used Debezium before. We've never used chain data capture, right? Another team said, I think we've never used Kafka, or at least never used it in this configuration before. Other teams saying, again, we didn't never use half the stuff in this architecture. Maybe if we could go around the teams, perhaps we go to Tassos then first. So going in that same order we had last time. I mean, did you find perhaps having technology from Red Hat maybe helped you go a little bit faster than if you're trying to figure this out yourself? Or how was that learning experience for you?
We really enjoyed having to learn some and use some technologies. So, we had heard about, we understood what change data capture is and why we would be using it, why we would need to use it, but we had never actually tried to deploy it. And it was one thing we really enjoyed. Another thing that we really enjoyed about the Hackfest was that the level of complexity, of difficulty, was exactly where it should be. So it was challenging enough for us. We had to learn Debezium. We had to figure out how to configure Mirror Maker. I mentioned Cogito, so we have experience with rules, but having to use now the Quarkus and Cogito, that was something new for us, and we were very glad that we were able to use that. And from a more system perspective, Rail for Edge was something that was completely new for us, and we took the decision to actually go for, as Andrea said, to go for the actual device, to set it up, to have a Docker container automatically start once it's booted. So because we wanted to understand what it's like in a disconnected world where a device, you may not even be able to have a proper UI, a monitor to understand what's going on, to be sure that it can start up and hook up to your network properly. So all these were very, very interesting for us.
Fantastic. Similar question then to Vieta then. So again, you took on technology that you've never played with and never used before, but you also learned skills that you think useful for your customers as well?
Sure. Just to add the Rail for Edge thing, it was exactly the same for us. We had some struggle installing it, but in the end, when we power cycled the thing and it just booted up and the UI was there, a really good feeling. But again, our challenges were mostly because we are a development team and we had to face much of the infrastructure problems head on. Like you mentioned, that the Kafka operator is installed, but it's not configured, right? So we had to look how do we configure the thing, which in hindsight isn't really that hard, but we didn't know how, right? So we learned a lot of stuff in that direction. So Rail for Edge was completely new for us. And Debezium, we in theory we knew how it would work, but we never set it up. So it was quite a nice experience too. Yeah, we just learned a lot. And it was quite intimidating in the beginning, because all these operators are installed. Do we need those? Should we need those, right? And yeah, it's the balance, right? How much do we want to give to the teams as a starting point, and how much does that cut the freedom of the teams, right? So I think you found the sweet spot there. We had a lot of fun.
Definitely. And I think hopefully what we're trying to simulate a little bit really is the real world, right? How many times has everyone on this call talked to customer, and customers said, hey, I've got this thing over here and this thing over there. We're trying to get this bit working. And you're trying to boil away all the complexity and then work out what's the real business problem they're trying to solve, and how, do they need all this technology, or what are the bits that they do need to solve the business problem. So again, that was a challenge that all the teams were faced with too. And last but certainly not least, Christian from the Atos team. Again, I think lots of technology you've not used before, but found yourself can make it productive really quickly, right?
Yeah, sort of. So I haven't used, or I'm not sure anybody in the team had used Kafka before, set up certainly, but not used. But event-driven architectures were new to us. So setting up Debezium and Kafka, yeah, the most challenge was actually then getting all the configuration right, reading all the docs, and actually Debezium broke in the process. Like, we had it working at some point, and then it just stopped. We even with you guys, we couldn't fix it, and then we had this trouble with the CrunchDB operator refusing to pull the image anymore. So we said, okay, we're rather not. We're changing too much right now, otherwise the whole demo will fail. That was a funny experience. My learning was this, like, the operators are great if you already know what you're doing, but it doesn't lift you away from the complexity of understanding the technology underneath, because as soon as you run into the problems, and if you run it in production, you will run into problems at some point in the time, you will have to understand this technology anyway. So it's a good starting point for a Hackfest if you know it, and it can help you getting started easy, but you still have, you don't save the time on learning the technology. With Rail at Edge, we also had our problems, mostly I think maybe because we used the virtual machine and we had troubles getting any output there at the beginning, because, I don't know, some issues with VNC that are probably not even related to the Rail at Edge image builder, but troubles with the VM that we could solve eventually, but we lost a lot of time there. I think the idea behind Red Hat Edge and this Fido device onboarding is amazing technology, and but the docs right now are really scattered around on the web. We had to dive into the Rust code from the. There's an implementation on the, I think it's from the Fedora project. I'm not actually sure. Like, on which port is it listening? How do we talk to it? It wasn't documented anyway. We were following some blog posts, and we started the application, but we couldn't integrate it to our solution. But I think that's that thing I would really see working, because that would solve the problem of device initialization in a safe way, and then you put on top a way to securely communicate after it, and that's a combination that is. I think it's a big deal. I've been working on projects before, where there are a lot of companies out there right now that are in piloting phases with IoT devices, where everything works great, but every time you set up a new device, a developer puts its hand on it, takes an hour or two, but that doesn't scale. If you do this for 1,000 or 10,000 devices, it's not going to work, and this is where this Fido device onboarding can really help you. And I think this is maybe a thing where also documentation and your support from Red Hat guys can improve a little bit, but I think this is something I'm sure you're going to do in the future.
Everyone always needs better documentation. That's a universal truth, definitely. But I thought it was interesting, again, all teams using the Red Hat technology to quickly build something in a Hackfest style way. For sure, we know we're not building for production, but we did some pretty interesting things in this way. And actually, I just need to call out, last point before I hand back to Natalia here. The Atos team here freaked us out at one point because they said, hey, we want to deploy OpenShift data science on top of ARO. I'm like, well, great, that's not supported. And also, we need another 100 gigabytes of RAM and 16 cores in the cluster. I was like, okay, well, I guess as the ops team, we'll go ahead and build that up and make it available. But again, talk about trying new things and testing ideas out, really innovating. Really, really cool to see. So it really surprised us from that side. We had to scale the cluster quickly, but we did, and we did it. I think actually in the end it was pretty quick, and we were scrambling behind the scenes to keep everything running and answer questions. But really cool to see again how different teams interpreted this in different ways and built interesting stuff, even if it's not supported sometimes. But that's cool to see.
Yeah, that's great. That's great to hear this feedback, James. So there was this request and to use OpenShift data science on the Arrow part, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And what I'm curious, what kind of why you thought you needed something like OpenShift data science? Which part would be good fit for AI ML workload?
I mean, from the overall architecture, it just belongs there. Right? We were doing a lot of work to get all the data into one place, and why would you do this if not for machine learning and data science on it? And from our perspective, it's like I wasn't even aware that there are like support limits. It's just like, okay, there's Red Hat OpenShift data science. We are running OpenShift. Can we have it?
I think it's fantastic in a world where every man and his dog, and even my mum has heard of Chat GPT, right? And everyone's going crazy about AI, but it's really cool to again see this built on Red Hat stuff, right?
Yeah. Or where you mentioned ChatGPT, actually we used ChatGPT to generate some test data for our SQL database. That was actually pretty funny. It worked to some extent. Yeah. So we have actual fashion products from some brands people recognize with real pricing. Yeah, that was cool.
Oh, that's great to hear, right? So you could also use those generative AI outcomes in your Hackfest. Wow, that lots of stuff. Well, I'm impressed about the technical level of this edition and what you implement. I think it's really cool. Having OpenShift at the edge with single node OpenShift, having OpenShift on cloud with Arrow, the same OpenShift experience, hybrid. This is really the hybrid cloud view, and you implemented the wall stack, and I like how you did your connection with Kafka Mirror Maker, how you use the Visium. So what kind of databases you used at the end?
I'm not sure about the other teams, but I think we all used the Postgres from CrunchyDB because that operator was like recommended because it works out mostly out of the box with the Visium.
Mm-hmm.
On our end, we decided to use the same database schema in the back office and in the data center because it simplifies, it saves a really lot of time in our scenario. I'm not sure this is a good approach for production scenarios. Yeah, so, but I don't know. I like this change data capture approach in general for solving issues where you already have a SQL database. For example, because you have a ERP system running where you want to connect to. And it also solves this two-phase commit issue that you sometimes have. We faced this in previous projects where you said you made a transaction and you now save it to the database and then send it to the message broker. What happens if the message broker isn't available? So you say, okay, let's send the message first, but what if that SQL database then rejects your transactions for some reason? And Debezium does solve that problem for SQL databases. Yeah. If you use no SQL databases, then they already have some kind of event-driven mechanism behind that. So it's really suited for relational databases.
Right.
Natalia, if I may add my 2 cents here, that's also the beauty of the Hackfest, right? So in the past, we used MongoDB and InfluxDB for as a time series database, so using different technologies to achieve the same result. Now they are using CrunchyDB, and also we always used Search Manager as a certified technology on OpenShift to secure the entire environment, creating delegate certificate authorities. So it's not just the Red Hat platform as the baseline, but we also use a lot of technology partners and ISVs to make sure that solution developed by our partners, our solution providers and system integrators is including technologies that actually match, that are generalist as we are, like a SQL or NoSQL database or search management, but also some specialist technologies and ISVs for specific use cases. So I'm very impressed by our entire ecosystem and the ability they have to achieve the same result using different technologies.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, Andrea. This is great. Also, the purpose of the Hackfest, is to make this combination of ideas or technologies and implementation that start with new stuff. Maybe from Hackfest, and this is something I would like to ask to each of you again. What is the outcome you have after this Hackfest? What the Hackfest brought to you? What do you think? The added value that you now have after the Hackfest? I'm starting from Tassos again.
Okay. Before I talk about the outcome, just very briefly, I'd like to also mention the challenge that we faced when we started this endeavor. It was to think of something that would actually be useful and also original from a business perspective. Given that our team was made out of engineers, we didn't have any analysts. So we worked our way bottom up, as opposed to having a customer asking you to do something. We actually had to come up with an idea and go ahead and implement it. So as far as outcomes are concerned, we feel much more confident on how we can use these technologies in real world cases with customers. And we think that we have a much better grasp of the IoT challenges, when it comes to what these challenges are, how managing devices, what it means to work in a disconnected world. The approach that we use for asynchronous guaranteed replication between the headquarters and the store, we think that's something that can prove to be quite useful. And perhaps in Unisystems, we have a research, development, and innovation business unit. So we were thinking that perhaps we can actually extend and possibly evolve what we built into a product or service that we could potentially offer as a company.
Seem to be muted.
I believe you're muted, Natalia.
Sorry again. I'll do an addendum from my previous question. There is a question in the chat from Dobio saying, what was the biggest pain point for the teams during the Hackfest? So to my original question, what is the outcome and what is your biggest pain point during the Hackfest?
I think I preemptively answered this question.
Exactly.
Yeah, the biggest pain point was coming up with something that would actually make sense.
Great, thank you. So let's go for Dominic.
Yeah, I am going to answer the pain point question first. It was definitely certificates. The whole configuration with to get the applications to talk to Kafka and to get Mirror Maker to talk to the other Kafka cluster, and certificates were a real pain point there. Probably because we weren't so familiar with the third manager, but that cost us a lot of time. But yeah, maybe you can get it better if you know how the third manager works. We couldn't get to that. So what is the outcome of our Hackfest? So in the end, it is an enablement, right? We had a pretty large developer-focused team, and most of the team didn't have any experiences with Kafka, didn't have any experience with Debezium or with OpenShift even. And we had a really good time just doing our know-how transfers. One guy has already worked with OpenShift, one guy has already worked with Kafka, and we now more people in our teams are able to do this stuff. Maybe even not of production level, right? But you've heard the things. So what is a Mirror Maker? How does the communication work? How do I replicate across clusters? And in the end, we have more people that can, even when we talk to our customers, right, have in the back of the head, oh, we have this solution that we did on Hackfest to replicate between the data center and your stores, for example, right? And now we can do that. We know how to use those products. So enablement in the end is the outcome, I would say.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for your thoughts. And Dominic, and since we're going into the end of the session, Christian, what is the outcome and what is the pain point?
Yeah, I think the biggest pain point for us was setting up Kafka with Debezium and the Mirror Maker. There are some troubles that you can have, for example, if you don't have the naming schemes right and you do both-way replication, you can end up in an endless circle of messages passing around. Also, if you don't know how Debezium works, like we did at the beginning, and you have, for example, underscores in your table, and then you Red Hat, the MQ operator is trying to build up the topics in CRDs in OpenShift, but since underscores cannot be represented in the topics, they get a different name. And I thought this is a name that is going to appear in the cluster, but it's not. It's a correct name. And if you don't know that, if you don't just look into the cluster, you don't find it. And then, yeah, we lost a lot of time on that. But the biggest achievement we had, or the biggest learning, is, of course, learning a lot of technology. We also had a few juniors on the team, but also getting more knowledge of this IoT topic, especially device onboarding, but also this replication of data between clusters. So a multi-cluster usage is a thing for a lot of our customers, and also in constrained environments where you can't just use as a service product for that. And running this inside your OpenShift cluster is a big step forward, I think.
Thank you for sharing your feedback. I think it's really good, Andrea, James, as the feedback to make another great edition of the Hackfest. And let's close this session, Andrea, James, with some final thoughts and words.
Well, obviously, I'd like to thank our winning teams again for their time today, but their participation during Hackfest. Incredible work. But also thanks to all the other teams that also participate in Hackfest. Again, the winners that you've got here beat a lot of other teams, but a lot of other people participated in this Hackfest. Biggest thanks as well to our sponsors, to Microsoft and Intel, for sponsoring Hackfest and making this possible. It obviously wouldn't have been possible without them. So it's for hardware support, for Azure credits, for their technical support there too. Thanks again for our sponsors. Over to you, Andrea.
Thank you, James. I would like also to thank James. He's an awesome technical person, but also he's got a fantastic sales acumen. So James is amazing. And also Camila Quadreroli, I want to mention her because she didn't want to show up in this episode, but she's been the marketing and project management person that organized everything. So Camila, you are great. And the whole team, right? We got contribution from BUs and sales team and consulting team. So they are fantastic. What's next? We will focus more on AI ML, roads, OpenShift, still edge computing, probably focusing on robotics, something new or exciting and latest and greatest for manufacturing, maybe something complex again, something that involves security, but also scalability and data flow and management. So we are still brainstorming. We will get back to in the Red Hat Hackfest landing page. So redhat.com/hackfest with more news in the near future. Thanks, Natale, for hosting us, and thanks everyone for joining.
Well, it's a pleasure, Andrea. I'm looking. I want to share the website. So I think it's this one I put in the chat, and let me also put a caption. So the people interested on the Hackfest, they can go to this website, and if there's a new edition upcoming, they will hear from here, right?
Yes,
that's
exactly.
great. That's great. So thanks and congratulations to the winner, Tassos, Dominic, Christian. Congratulations, Unisystem, Viada, and Atos for this edition. The implementation is super cool and technical. I really enjoyed this session. And hey, folks, the recording of this session is still here, and the same YouTube link or Twitch link. So if you want to rewatch the session, just use the same link, and you will find the recording also in our YouTube OpenShift TV coffee break playlist. Was a pleasure to have all you. Was a pleasure to have you, Andrea, James. And we come back on May the 31 with another edition. We'll have Andrea again, if I am not wrong, right, Andrea? We will have you.
An exciting technology that we just onboarded in our EMEA.
Amazing.
That's coming edge, yeah.
When there's Andrea, we are super technical. I'm really happy for it.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, folks. See you the next time. Ciao.